Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We are in the afterglow of the first full week of NFL football, even if, well, it's preseason, but you know what? The fans need a preseason too sometimes, right? We need to warm up for stuff. So, now that we are a day removed from the game, I wanted to take some time to break down some of the fallout from it because, like I said, there was a lot of positive, there was a lot of negative. And overall, I'd say that we can feel pretty good about where this team is headed just based off Saturday's game. I think the things that really were important in terms of the future prospects of this team looked quite good. And I would say that the things that didn't look so good are things that are understandable, things that are kind of expected, and things that are probably going to be addressed in the future regardless. So I want to take a look at a couple of things in this video to provide a fuller picture. First, I'm going to look at some PFF data from that game because Pro Football Focus has now gone over that game. And I also want to look at snap counts. You guys know I like to look at snap counts to get an idea of how much different players played because it's hard to keep track of that sometimes when you're watching live. So we're going to start with PFF, and we're going to start with the biggest, most important thing. But one thing I want to say before we get into this is I have always said about PFF, you shouldn't use PFF to form your takes. You should use PFF to verify or dispute the take that you develop from other sources, like your eyes watching the game. I've seen PFF come up with stuff that seems right to me all the time, but I've also seen plenty of circumstances where PFF spits something out that just doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't believe that you should decide you're going to just not trust your eyes and trust a number that PFF gives you. So take everything that I'm about to say with the understanding that it should be used to affirm or at least dispute your previous assumption about the way the game went, not to completely change your mind or completely form your take. Right? There's room for plenty of different takes from different places when it comes to football. So let's start with the big one, the offensive line. In 145 total pass blocking snaps, we allowed one pressure, which was, by the way, not a sack, not a hit, but a hurry. 145 pass blocking snaps, one pressure. That's phenomenal. That is absolutely phenomenal. Our 84.5 pass block grade was number one in the entire NFL in this preseason week. Now, I understand we're not playing starters. Well, we played some starters, but we didn't play TJ Watt. Pittsburgh had some other of their stud defenders on the bench, like Micah Fitzpatrick. So I understand that it's not the best competition, but that means something to me. Number one, if it was something like number 8 and we were playing a bunch of backups, I would be like, oh, okay, that's fine. But number one, yeah. So 84.5 pass block grade, and let's add on to this a little bit here. 81.6 run block grade, which was 5th in the NFL in week 1. So out of 32 teams, 5th in the NFL. So basically, the offensive line is the star of the show right now. That is something that we saw on Saturday night when we watched the game. That is something that several people have already pointed out when they watched tape on that preseason game. That is something that I certainly noticed. Almost everybody in my chat the last 2 days has noticed. And now it is something that PFF is also saying is true. Quick rundown here. Phil Haynes had a 91.1 run block grade. So when Phil Haynes came into the league, I think the reason why we didn't play him as much as we could have, and we really tried to keep him on the bench, was he was a good pass blocker, but I don't think he was a very good run blocker. So if he is turning into a great run blocker now, that's a complete player. That's a big deal. That's somebody who can start for you. Now his obstacle is just staying healthy. 91.1 run block grade. If he had that over the course of a full season, he would be one of the best run blockers in the NFL. So at this point, I'm looking at Phil Haynes and saying that's a guy who should probably be starting until he proves that he can't do it. Damian Lewis. I could not find his run block grade. I'm sure it was good. But his pass block grade, plain left guard, mind you, 84.2. 84.2 pass block grade. This is something that he wasn't very good at last year. If he improves here, he can become a quality left guard in the NFL. And you know what? It was a bumpy road, but at that point I can say maybe we won that gamble. So 84.2 pass block grade for Damian Lewis. So those are your two guards. The tackles, Abe Lucas, 83.4 run block grade, really good. Solid pass block grade, 78.1. Overall, he was 82.4. So great start for Abe Lucas. He was actually a little better than Cross. Cross had a great pass block grade. This article even shows 23 pass blocking snaps, no pressures. But he also had a 72.2 overall grade. It's not just the starters, too. Jake Curhan. Now, I know Jake Curhan technically started, but he played a little bit at right tackle and then he moved to guard. Either way, he was kicking butt in the run game, which that's kind of what we came to expect from him last year. 81.1 run block grade. So Curhan continues to build on a pretty impressive rookie year last year. So it wasn't just the starters. Curhan's also showing that he's good. And, by the way, while we're here, Stone Forsyth had a grade of almost 80. 84 pass blocking, 77.5 run blocking. Technically, he was better in PFF grading than Cross. I don't think he was better than Lucas, but overall actually better than Cross. Now, he's not better than Cross, of course. I think we all know that Forsyth was playing against the true back of the roster depth for the Steelers, guys who actually aren't even going to make the roster, but Forsyth played really well too. The weak link in the offensive line was Blythe, and Blythe had a grade of 62, which is about average, maybe a little better than average. So when the worst player on your offensive line going 7 deep is a 62 on PFF, that's really good. And that is, I think, the main takeaway from this game. We had a bunch of offensive linemen show up, play really well. Like I said, 7 deep with guys who played at least average over a significant portion of snaps. And honestly, the guys I didn't mention, I didn't notice anything terrible from them. I didn't notice Fuller doing anything terrible. So, yeah, offensive line, we all saw them play great. PFF is backing that up. Also playing great in that game, according to our eyeballs and PFF, was Boye Mafe. He had a grade from PFF of 85, and his pass rush grade was 86.6. I believe both were the highest on the team on defense. Pass rush grade and overall grade. So awesome stuff from Mafe. We didn't need PFF to tell us that he played great, right? We didn't. But they say he played great. And I saw him leave some plays out there, man. I saw him miss a tackle. I saw him hesitate a little bit on a short yardage play, I think. So there's room for him to get better, for sure. So definitely something to keep an eye on going forward. Other guys on defense who played well, according to PFF, were two guys who actually I didn't notice that much. Ugo Amadi and Marquise Blair were both graded fairly well. Jamison Houston graded pretty well, as Miles Adams was, but neither guy has great odds to make the roster, so it's hard to get too excited about that. And that's the main meat of the stuff from PFF that I think is most interesting. I will say this. Geno Smith had a great grade. He had a grade of 84.5, 81 passing the ball, and 68 running the ball. Drew Lock had a good grade as well, but it wasn't nearly as good. 69.3, 66 rated passer, and 62.6 running the ball. I'm guessing he got docked pretty significantly for the fumble, which is understandable. I will continue to say that I think that what Geno did on his sack bothered me more than anything I saw from Locke. But stepping away from it for a day plus and really thinking about it, looking back at it, digesting what happened, maybe Geno played a little bit better in that game than I gave him credit for. That one play he had on the 3rd and 6 still bugs the crap out of me. But nevertheless, I gotta say, I think both guys at least showed some potential. Okay, so now let's just look at the snap counts real quick. I get these from there's a snap count Twitter on Twitter that actually posts snap counts for every game. So I usually just go over there. Sometimes Maddie F. Brown reposts them on Twitter. I can get them from there as well. So anybody can go look at snap counts for any games from the Twitter account. I think it's just called like NFL snap counts at NFL snap counts, something like that. You can see that Abe Lucas played more than anybody on offense, and Phil Haynes was right behind him. So those guys getting positive grades means something. It's not a tiny sample size. They had to earn those really good grades. So Abe Lucas and Phil Haynes, they earned their stellar grades. Period. And Curhan too. Curhan played 40 snaps. Cross played 37. Curhan played two different positions. Still really solid. So I have to be optimistic about what those guys brought, because not only was it quality, there was also quantity. You can also see that on the other hand, Colby Parkinson, I didn't know how many snaps he played yesterday. It ended up being 34. And for him to not really make an impact on that game, it does it starts to trouble you a little bit, I guess, that he's just not able to leave much of an impact on these games despite getting opportunities. He had a couple opportunities to make plays in the end zone for touchdowns in that game. He didn't make them. Maybe understandable, but nevertheless, you got to make a play at some point to get your name out there. And Colby, I think he had one catch on a 3rd and long where he just picked up like 4 yards to make the field goal easier. So the fact that he's getting on the field this much and not really doing much of anything impactful, it's starting to feel like his last chance is underway. We are now there with his last chance. We can see that Travis Homer in 21 snaps actually had a very positive impact on the team, so that's good. You can see that DJ Dallas got the ball a lot for how little he played and had a big impact for how little he played. You can see how little Ken Walker played. There seemed to be some people who were kind of down on what Ken Walker gave in that game, but you can see he played 12 snaps, only a handful of opportunities to do anything, so I don't read too much into it. Forsyth got 23 snaps, so his grade was also amassed over a decent, not a huge, but a decent sample size. So that's most of the stuff on offense. Defensively, I want to take a look at a couple of things here. Mafe played the most snaps on defense along with Woolen. So 2 rookies got 44 snaps apiece. And again, this is a huge feather in the cap of Boye Mafe. He earns that grade not off like 10 or 15 snaps, but 44. And Woolen, I don't think Woolen's going to be graded well at all, because he did make a lot of mistakes in that game. He missed tackles. He got beaten coverage. A couple times he blew a coverage on the touchdown. But he's out there grinding. Same with Kobe, getting 39 snaps. So no issue there. We can see that Marquise Blair actually played a lot. So while I understand that Marquise Blair doesn't have a huge role to play on this defense this year in all likelihood because of our situation at safety, but he did get a good grade from PFF over 36 snaps. So credit where credit is due. I don't know if it's going to amount to anything, but he got burn. Alton Robinson got good burn, 35 snaps, and I thought he was very impactful. Poona Ford. Poona Ford's a player I didn't talk about that much yesterday in the postgame, or 2 days ago in the postgame video, but a lot of people noticed that he was flashing and looking good in that game. And rewatching some of the plays, I noticed it too. And he did it in 21 snaps, only 31% of the snaps. So that's good. That's definitely promising. This is a make-or-break year for Poona in Seattle, I think. We know he's a good player, but can he be a good player in these circumstances? I don't know. But Poona Ford flashed enough to get people's attention in just 21 snaps, which is a good sign. Ugo only got 19 snaps, and they were all with like the 3rd-team defense. I don't know what that means. He did get a good grade, but he's not playing that much, and he's not running with the starters, so I wasn't that impressed with Coleman, so I don't know what we're doing at nickel. Barton did not get a good PFF grade. I didn't mention it earlier, but it was like 50-something. It might have even been like 48. But he only played 24 snaps, so not a lot of playing time for him. We'll see what he can do with probably more playing time over the next 2 weeks. Not too much else from the rest of this. Monet played a little bit, but not a lot. Darrell Taylor, you can actually see that he only played 18 snaps A lot of people were a little down on what he did, but he didn't play a ton. Give him a little more time to get more playing time. That's about it for the big stuff. Coleman only got 11 snaps, so maybe that goes to show you he needs a little more time before we make any decisions on him. I really didn't like what I saw from him on a couple plays, but yeah, I'm a big fan of holding off on judgment on the small sample size. Quentin Jefferson, only 10 snaps. That's a guy who figures to be a significant player in our defensive line this year, so not having him out there tells you that the defense that we had on the field 2 days ago is not going to be the defense we have. Guys like Taylor, guys like Jefferson, guys like Shelby Harris, who only got 12 snaps as well. Hard to judge until they get significant time out there. So some of the things that people weren't high on the defense, just keep it all in perspective. And that's about all the stuff I wanted to go over for this video. I think that there's a lot to like about this first game, like I said. And some of the stuff that you don't like the tackling, the run defense, you look at these snap counts and you're like, that kind of makes sense. No Jordan Brooks, by the way. That's a big deal. Only 18 snaps for maybe the best player on the defense this year, Taylor, if he continues on the way he's going. So, yeah, I looking at these snap counts, things kind of fall into place for me. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Should be streaming later today over on Twitch. Planning on doing another Seahawks stream probably tomorrow. Going to try to do a Hawks Nest on Wednesday. And, yeah, we're underway, guys. See you guys later on. Go Hawks.